In the bustling heart of Manhattan, Jay-Z stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, gazing out at the city he had conquered. His journey from the gritty streets of the Marcy projects in Brooklyn to the pinnacle of success was nothing short of extraordinary. He had built an empire spanning music, business, real estate, and art, earning a place among the elite on Forbes' list. Yet, beneath the glitz and glamour, a shadow lingered, a haunting reminder of his past. One evening, as he poured himself a glass of whiskey, his phone buzzed on the marble counter. Unknown number. Not unusual for someone like Jay-Z, who received countless calls about deals, contracts, and opportunities. But this time, something felt different. Beside the phone lay a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a brief message typed in a simple font. Your father is in trouble. He's living in unbearable conditions. You need to come back. Jay clenched the note in his hand, memories flooding back the same house, the same town, the same woman who had haunted his childhood. Annabelle. Even her name made his jaw tighten. She had married his grieving father after his mother passed away, taking control of everything: their home, their lives, even his father's spirit. Jay had left at 18, vowing never to return. Until now? The next morning, Jay boarded his private jet, his thoughts heavy. As the plane ascended into the sky, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a warning, it was a call to action. The town he was returning to had seen better days, much like his family. But this time, Jay-Z wasn't the scared kid he once was. This time, he was ready to face the truth. When Jay's private jet touched down at the small regional airport, the contrast to Manhattan was stark. The streets were cracked, the stores boarded up, and the people moved with a quiet sense of resignation. It was as though the town had given up on itself, much like his family had under Annabelle's influence. Yet, despite the decay, there was a raw authenticity here that Jay hadn't felt in years. He rented a black sedan, a far cry from the luxury cars he usually drove in, made his way toward his childhood home. As he navigated the winding roads, memories flooded back unbidden. This was where it all began: the Marcy projects, the struggles, the dreams. And now, he was returning not as the scared kid who fled, but as someone who could fight back. As he drove closer, the sight of his childhood home nearly stopped his heart. The once pristine house with its wraparound porch was barely standing. Paint peeled off the walls in long strips, windows were cracked or missing altogether, and weeds overgrew the yard, swallowing what little remained of their garden. It was a ghost of its former self, a reflection of the life that had been stolen from his father. Jay parked the car and walked up the creaking wooden steps leading to the front door. His boots echoed softly against the weathered planks, each step heavy with anticipation and dread. He knocked firmly, waiting for an answer. Silence greeted him at first, then the door swung open slowly. There she was, Annabelle. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her pearl necklace gleaming against her crisp white blouse. She looked every bit the picture of elegance, but her eyes told a different story: cold, calculating, and filled with disdain. Well, well, she drawled, her southern accent sharp like a blade. Look who finally decided to grace us with his presence. Jay forced himself to remain calm, though anger simmered beneath the surface. Where's my father? His voice was steady, but his fists clenched tightly at his sides. Annabelle smirked, leaning casually against the doorframe. James is occupied at the moment. But come on in, make yourself at home. Her tone dripped with sarcasm, laced with venom. Inside, the house was unrecognizable. Dust coated everything, the hardwood floors scratched and dull, the air thick with neglect. And then he saw him. His father, James Carter, was on his hands and knees, scrubbing the floor with a filthy rag. His once strong frame had withered, his hands trembling as they worked. His gray hair was disheveled, and his clothes, a faded blue shirt and worn jeans, are stained with dirt and sweat. Dad? Jay's voice cracked, breaking through the oppressive silence. His father didn't look up, continuing his monotonous task as if unaware of his son's presence. Oh, don't mind him, Annabelle interjected with a cruel laugh. He likes to keep himself busy. Keeps the place livable. Jay turned to her, rage boiling inside him. What the hell is this? His voice rose, echoing through the empty halls. Annabelle raised an eyebrow, her expression indifferent. This is life, Jay-Z. Your father made his choices. He's a grown man. Jay dropped to his knees beside his father, grabbing his arm gently but firmly. Dad, stop. You don't have to do this. James finally looked up. His eye-slants full of fire and wisdom were dull and lifeless. It's fine, son. I'm fine. But he wasn't fine, and Jay knew it. That night, in a dimly lit motel room, Jay sat across from his father. The silence between them was heavy, the kind of silence that carried years of unspoken words and buried emotions. The harsh glow of the overhead light bulb cast long shadows on the walls, emphasizing the weight of the moment. "I don't know why you came back," James finally said, his voice hoarse, each word laced with resignation. "You have your own life. You don't need to worry about me." Jay met his father's tired gaze, seeing the pain etched into every line of his face. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "I do need to worry about you," he replied firmly. "I should have come back sooner, but I'm here now, and I'm going to fix this." James looked away, shaking his head slowly. "There's nothing to fix, son. This is just how it is." But Jay wasn't convinced. Over the next few days, he began piecing together the truth. Annabelle wasn't just a manipulative stepmother, she was running a long con, preying on families in grief, manipulating them into signing over their assets, draining them dry before moving on to the next victim. She had politicians, bankers, and even local law enforcement in her Paqueta web of corruption so intricate that most people wouldn't dare challenge her. Jay hired Marvin Ross, a private investigator known for exposing financial fraud. Together, they pulled property records, bank statements, tax filing for every document they could find. Each new piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of Annabelle's scheme. Forged signatures on loan agreements, offshore accounts siphoning money meant for James's retirement fund, manipulated legal documents transferring ownership of the house to her name. The more Jay uncovered, the angrier he became. His fists clenched at his sides as he read through the files late into the night, fueled by a mix of fury and determination. This wasn't just about his father anymore. Annabelle had built an empire of corruption, and it was time to bring her down. The morning of the confrontation dawned gray and overcast, as if the sky itself mirrored the tension Jay felt in his chest. He stood outside the modest motel room where he had spent the last few nights, gathering evidence against Annabelle. Clutching a thick folder filled with documents, he took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Jay wasn't alone this time. Beside him stood Marvin Ross, the private investigator whose sharp mind and meticulous work had uncovered the extent of Annabelle's crimes. Behind them waited a journalist from a national news outlet, her notebook at the ready, along with 2 federal agents who had reviewed the evidence and agreed to assist in bringing Annabelle to justice. As they approached the house, the familiar creak of the porch steps beneath their feet sent shivers down Jay's spine. It was the same sound that had echoed through countless childhood memories, some joyful, others haunting. Now, it served as a grim reminder of the life stolen from his father. Annabelle appeared on the porch, her usual air of superiority faltering slightly under the weight of the moment. Her blonde hair was still perfectly styled, her pearl necklace gleaming even in the dull light of the cloudy day, but her eyes darted nervously between the strangers flanking Jay, betraying her growing unease. "Well, well," she drawled, her southern accent tinged with venom. "Looks like you brought an audience." Jay stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "We have everything, Annabelle. The fake loans, the forged deeds, your offshore accounts. It's over." Her face paled, but she forced a smirk, trying to maintain her composure. "You think you can take me down? This is my town." One of the federal agents stepped forward, flashing his badge. "Mrs. Annabelle Carter, you are under investigation for multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy." His tone was firm, leaving no room for argument. Annabelle stumbled back, her hands trembling as reality set in. For years, she had operated with impunity, preying on the weak and vulnerable. Now, the tables had turned. You can't do this," she stammered, clutching the doorframe for support. "This is my home." Jay met her gaze, his voice calm but resolute. "No, Annabelle, it never was." Inside the house, James sat quietly in the corner, watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. Though he didn't fully understand the details, he sensed the magnitude of the moment. Slowly, a flicker of hope returned to his weary expression, a spark that hadn't been there in years. For Jay, this was more than just a victory. It was redemption. Redemption for his father, for their family, and for all those who had suffered under Annabelle's tyranny. In the weeks that followed, Jay didn't just reclaim the house, he transformed it. With the help of contractors, architects, and local volunteers who were inspired by his mission, he turned the once dilapidated home into the Carter Community Center. The space was designed to be both functional and inviting, a place dedicated to helping families fight against the very kind of corruption that had nearly destroyed his own. The community center featured classrooms for financial literacy workshops, counseling rooms for those dealing with personal or legal struggles, and even a small library stocked with resources on entrepreneurship and self-empowerment. Outside, the overgrown yard gave way to a vibrant garden, where children could learn about sustainability and teamwork. Every detail reflected Jay's vision of resilience and hope. His father, James, played an integral role in this transformation. Once broken and defeated, James now stood tall, finding new purpose in mentoring young men who faced challenges reminiscent of his own past struggles. He led weekly discussions, sharing stories of perseverance and offering guidance to anyone willing to listen. His presence alone served as a powerful reminder of what could happen when someone refused to give up. At the grand opening, Jay addressed the crowd gathered under a canopy of golden sunlight filtering through the trees. The atmosphere felt harmonious yet celebratory, filled with laughter and applause. "This house has seen its share of pain," Jay began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "But today, it stands as a symbol of resilience, of justice. This isn't just my family's home anymore. This is a home for anyone who has ever been told they don't belong." As the applause roared around him, Jay-Z felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. For the first time, he truly believed that the cycle of suffering could be broken. That good would always triumph over evil, no matter how entrenched the latter seemed. Yet deep down, Jay knew there was still work to be done. The victory here was only the beginning. There were countless others out there, families trapped in similar situations, communities ravaged by corruption, and he vowed to reach them all. With the community center established, Jay-Z set his sights on expanding its reach. He partnered with other organizations to create a network of support systems across the country, aiming to empower communities affected by similar injustices. His father, James, found new purpose in mentoring young men who faced challenges reminiscent of his own past struggles. The media coverage of Annabelle's downfall sparked broader discussions about systemic corruption and the exploitation of vulnerable individuals. Jay used his platform to advocate for policy changes that would protect families from predatory schemes. Through interviews and public appearances, he shared his personal story, emphasizing the importance of resilience and redemption. Jay's efforts weren't limited to speeches or headlines. They translated into tangible action. He collaborated with lawmakers to draft legislation targeting financial fraud and ensuring greater accountability for those in positions of power. At the same time, he worked closely with grassroots movements to amplify voices often ignored by mainstream society. As word spread about the Carter Community Center, it inspired similar initiatives nationwide. Local leaders reached out to Jay, seeking advice on how to replicate his model in their own towns. What started as a personal mission to save his father evolved into a movement that touched countless lives. As word spread about the Carter Community Center, it inspired similar initiatives nationwide. Local leaders reached out to Jay, seeking advice on how to replicate his model in their own towns. What started as a personal mission to save his father evolved into a movement that touched countless lives. James Carter became an influential figure within the community, often speaking at events about overcoming adversity. His transformation from a man reduced to servitude to a beacon of hope resonated deeply with audiences. Meanwhile, Jay continued to balance his demanding career with his newfound role as a social activist, proving that one could achieve both professional success and meaningful impact. Through partnerships with other organizations, Jay expanded the reach of the Carter Community Center's programs. He launched national campaigns focused on financial literacy, legal advocacy, and community empowerment. These efforts brought attention to systemic issues affecting marginalized communities, sparking broader discussions about justice and equality. At every step, Jay remained grounded, driven by the memory of his father's struggle and the knowledge that there were still many others like him who needed help. The ripple effect of his actions grew stronger with each passing day, inspiring not only those he directly helped, but also anyone who heard his story. Despite the progress, Jay-Z grappled with lingering emotions tied to his past. Returning to the town where he grew up forced him to confront unresolved issues not only with Annabelle but also with himself. In therapy sessions, he explored the roots of his fear and anger, gradually learning to forgive not just others but also himself. These introspective moments deepened his connection with his father, leading to more open conversations about their shared history. Together, they worked through old wounds, strengthening their bond and fostering mutual understanding. Through these discussions, Jay realized that while he had saved his father from Annabelle's clutches, he still carried pieces of the pain she had inflicted on both of them. One evening, as they sat together in the Carter Community Center, surrounded by the laughter of children and the hum of activity, James spoke softly. "You know," he began, his voice tinged with regret, "I let her take everything from me because I thought it was what your mother would have wanted. She always said I needed someone to look after me." Jay listened intently, his heart aching for the man who had once been so strong. "Dad," he replied, his voice steady, "Mom wouldn't have wanted this for either of us. She loved you fiercely, and she'd want you to fight for yourself, just like I fought for you." For the first time in years, James smiled a genuine, unburdened smile. It was a small victory, but one that filled Jay with hope. They were healing together. Years later, the Carter Community Center remained a thriving hub of activity, offering resources ranging from legal aid to educational programs. It became a testament to what could be achieved when people united against injustice. Jay's efforts earned him recognition beyond music and business, cementing his legacy as a champion for fairness and equality. James Carter, now a respected elder statesman in the community, published a memoir detailing his experiences. Titled From Brokenness to Strength, it chronicled his journey alongside his sons inspiring readers worldwide. Proceeds from book sales funded further expansion of the center's services, allowing them to reach even more communities in need. The impact of their work extended far beyond the walls of the community center. Local governments began adopting policies inspired by Jay's advocacy, creating safer environments for families and protecting them from predatory schemes. The ripple effect of their actions transformed entire neighborhoods, giving hope to those who had long felt abandoned. Yet, amidst all the accolades and achievements, Jay never lost sight of why he started this journey. Every day, he reminded himself of the man on his knees, scrubbing the floor, the woman whose cruelty knew no bounds, and the boy who vowed to escape it all. These memories fueled his determination to keep pushing forward, to ensure that justice prevailed not just for his father, but for everyone who deserved it. As Jay-Z reflected on his journey, he realized that true success wasn't measured solely by wealth or fame, but by the positive change one leaves behind. Standing on the balcony of his revitalized childhood home in part of the Carter Community Center, he marveled at how far they had come. The once dilapidated house stood as a symbol of resilience and hope, its walls now filled with laughter, learning, and healing. Surrounded by the vibrant energy of children playing in the garden and adults engaging in workshops, Jay understood that while some scars may never fully heal, they could serve as reminders of strength gained. He thought back to the boy who had fled this very town years ago, vowing never to return. That boy would hardly recognize the man he had become, a man driven not just by ambition but also by purpose. With renewed determination, Jay vowed to continue fighting for those still trapped in cycles of oppression, ensuring that no one else would endure what his father had suffered. His work was far from over. There were countless communities across the country and around the world that needed support, guidance, and justice. For Jay, this wasn't just about fixing broken systems or exposing corruption. It was about empowering people to reclaim their lives, to rise above adversity, and to build something meaningful out of pain. And though the road ahead might be long, he knew he wasn't alone. Beside him stood his father, James Carter, a testament to the power of redemption. Together, they embodied the spirit of the Carter Community Center: resilience, hope, and unwavering belief in a brighter future. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the town, Jay felt a profound sense of peace. This wasn't just his story anymore, it belonged to everyone who had found solace, strength, and inspiration within these walls. And so, the legacy of justice continued, inspiring generations to believe in the power of perseverance and triumph over adversity. And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video. It's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.